at AT&T Stadium.
Anything that moves between these lines, gotta get dealt with.
10-5, and he streaks in. Deep to the post to Lamb. At the 5, to the goal line.
Dallas Cowboys Game Night is presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
From Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium, welcome into Cowboys Game Night as the Cowboys fall to 6-7-1 on the 2025 campaign. Their playoff hopes dealt a fatal blow in this one. 34-26 the final as the Minnesota Vikings take down the Cowboys in Week 15. Alongside Isaiah Stanback and Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeoman. So glad you're with us. Just outside this locker room here at AT&T Stadium, and it's a somber field to say the least. And it's a game where the Cowboys entered feeling like they had a chance to win it, chance to keep their playoff hopes alive. Of course, Philadelphia won earlier in the day, so you still needed the Eagles to lose 2 of their final 3 games, but now the Cowboys would have to win out and the Eagles would have to lose out against lesser competition. Your playoff hopes have now been dashed so far. What happened in this one, Isaiah?
You just never felt like Dallas had control. You know, it was just from the get-go. Obviously, Dallas had a handful of good plays. Quentin Williams with the one-hand interception, that was nice. That was kind of the highlight of that first portion of the game. But outside of that, offensively, you felt like you were hoping to convert on things. You didn't feel like you had control. Defensively, you couldn't stop a running nose in the pass game. You did a heck of a job stopping the running game. You did not allow Aaron Jones to come in here and do what he's done in years past. But in the passing game, you were getting torched, right? Whether you're playing zone, they had too much time to throw the ball, work the middle of the field, work the outside. When you played man-to-man coverage, your defensive backs had their eyes in the backfield, not really sure what they were looking at. They're 25, 30 yards away from the play, and they're looking in the backfield, getting beat over the top. So there were splash plays. There was too much time for McCarthy at times. He was able to utilize his legs. The Vikings just needed okay play out of their quarterback. They finally got that. And they had enough skill set players around him to go ahead and push them over the edge tonight.
You know, I was looking for Brian Flores. He liked to put a lot of people on the line. He liked to get into them A and B gaps. What you got to do is you got to burn him. You got to back him up. And that is what we've been doing to teams over the past weeks, is making big plays. We had a few for CD, but not enough all around. Our tight ends should have took advantage of the middle of the field. Couldn't do that right there. We ran the ball efficiently enough. And our offensive line and fellas, like I said, you said in our other shows, don't call no names, but fellas, y'all got to pick it up. Yeah. Y'all have to be, because we was 4 or 5 on 4th downs. Come on, man, that's too many 4th downs. Yeah. That's because you failed on 3rd down. You got to execute better as a unit.
Yeah, a lot of different elements that we'll go through over the course of this show. Let's start with the highlights in this one. Of course, this was a day where the Cowboys were celebrating the draft class of 1975, a.k.a. the Dirty Dozen. 50th anniversary of those 12 players all making the team in 1975. Opening drive for Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy's pass tipped by Donovan Wilson. It's intercepted by Quentin Williams at the line of scrimmage. His second career interception, his first since 2023. Isaiah, you talked about it. This was the highlight of the game.
Yeah, this is definitely the highlight on the opening drive. Good job by Donovan Wilson getting his hand up on a quick set by the quarterback, and Quentin Williams just seemingly using his skill set to be able to bring one down for the big fella.
Dallas on their second drive of the day was stalled on 3rd down, and it, instead of being a field goal try, ended up in a fake field goal. Brandon Aubrey runs it for a first down, his first successful fake field goal of the season, and it would turn into points for Dallas as Javonte Williams punches it home. A couple plays later, Minnesota would have an answer, however. After just a 1-play drive prior to this, it took 2 plays for J.J. McCarthy to hit Jalen Naylor in the back of the end zone for this 20-yard score. We were tied at 7 at the end of 1. Dallas would retake the lead after Javonte Williams suffered an injury in the first quarter. It was Malik Davis who played the majority of the second. He punches it in from 1 yard out. Dallas up 14-7. Again, the Vikings would have an answer. Later in the quarter, J.J. McCarthy rolls out and bootlegs his way on a 1-yard touchdown run, dancing into the end zone. It was 17-17 after the break, after Dallas tacked on 2 field goals to start the 3rd quarter. It was Minnesota that found the end zone first in the frame. They went up 24-23. Dallas trying to retake the lead with a 59-yard field goal attempt for Brandon Aubrey. This one is wide to the right, and that's his second miss of the day. First time he's ever missed multiple field goals in a game at AT&T Stadium, and the Minnesota Vikings, with that door open, would slam it shut themselves as they would go up by 8. Later, they would go up by 10, then putting Dallas in a tough spot to try and put together 2 possessions. They would go down the field and get in field goal range again for Brandon Aubrey. This kick, an opportunity to try and punch it through, then set up an onside kick as this brought it back within 8 at 34-26. So hopes slim at this point in time. Brandon Aubrey puts it on the ground. It's recovered by the Vikings, and Minnesota would hold on to win it. Running out the clock over the last 18 seconds of that one, and Kevin O'Connell victorious on the road against his former coach in Brian Schottenheimer. J.J. McCarthy gets his first win over the Dallas Cowboys. Here are the final stats brought to you by Miller Lite. You see that number right to the right of third downs, 2 for 12 on the money down in this one. An unfortunate day for Dallas in those late down scenarios, and that was really what was the doom for the Cowboys in this one. We're going to go deeper into that when we come back here on Cowboys Game Night from just outside the locker room at AT&T Stadium. The Cowboys fall to the Vikings at home, 34-26 the final. More to come right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Dallas Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today.
It's the last thing that anybody wants to take a look at after a loss like this, but Dallas still on the very edge of the NFC playoff picture. You look at Philadelphia at 9-5, they would have to lose out, where Dallas would have to win out over their final 3 games in order for Dallas to win the division. They would still get a home game. They would, of course, play against one of those teams in that wild card 5, 6, 7 slot. But with even all that being said, that's your most likely path to the playoffs, because then it gets convoluted outside of that. The NFC North kind of plays everybody in succession, and everything is crazy at that point in time. But after a loss like this, 34-26 the final, the Vikings take care of business over the Dallas Cowboys. That's the last thing you want to look at, because now you got to look internally as to what happened in this one. And the first place you can start, Isaiah, is 2 for 12 on third down. You were not good on third down in this one.
No, you weren't. And the last place you wanted to be was in 3rd and long against a Brian Flores defense. That's literally what he tries to put you, the position he tries to put you in. Early downs, if you're unable to run the ball effectively, which I think Dallas was pretty successful with in the second half, not necessarily the first half, then you find yourself in a position where all those guys are walked up at the line of scrimmage, and they have more guys than you have at the offensive line to be able to block. So at that point, you're playing a guessing game as to who is going to be bringing the pressure, and you saw tonight that Dak was under a lot of pressure, never got an opportunity to really settle in. Everything seemed like a check down or right there at about the 5-yard mark.
You stayed in 2nd and long. You stayed in 2nd and long. So all they had to do, as you see right there, they just sit right on the line marker, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and just come up and make secure tackles. You see it just play out the play, and that got them that 2 and 12, 17%. Looking bad.
And this is a second straight game where Dak has been sacked multiple times, and even when he's not being sacked, pressure is there. The offensive line struggled mightily in this one. Nate, what did you see from the 5 guys up front?
It's just they can never get it together for us who to block. And if they did, it was a piece of a guy at the last moment, and you can't have that. And then we brought in, I can't pronounce the kid's name, number 75.
Hakeem Adeniji.
He was not ready for it. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say this about a kid, but he came in and he was not ready for what was happening.
Yeah, the offensive line was in shambles today. They've been in shambles. They've been a number of times where obviously guys have been injured. Tyler Guyton's been out. We've had to miss a couple of guys throughout the season, and now you're playing musical chairs at the tackle position. It's an unfortunate situation, but there's no excuse. There's no excuse. You always hear next man up. You got to stay ready. You have to be ready, so you have to get ready. But offensive line, I can say, and I know you can attest to this, is one of those special positional groups that continuity is absolutely everything. So even though you might be ready, or maybe you're not all the way ready, if you're not in sync with the man that's next to you, you're in a world of trouble, and that's exactly what Dallas was in tonight.
Then you got to be, especially whenever you're facing the blitz as often as what Brian Flores brings. We talked about it throughout the week on DallasCowboys.com. This was not unexpected. You knew what was happening, and it still wasn't able to be combated and forcefully handled up front by that Cowboys offensive line. When we come back, more reaction from inside the locker room at AT&T Stadium after a 34-26 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. We'll hear from head coach Brian Schottenheimer right after this.
This segment was brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Dallas Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today.
On third down. Calvin, you go 2 and 12 on third down. I thought they did a good job with their blitz packages. They had us confused a little bit. That starts with me. I got to do a better job with that. Give Coach Flores and his staff some credit. But it comes down to third down. Now, we were pretty good on third down, or fourth down. But, you can't go 2 for 12. Situationally, we didn't play very good tonight offensively. We weren't very good on third down, and we weren't very good in the red zone. And that's why you see us struggle in the second half. And that's kind of where it starts.
Defensive pressure, I think Kenny Crockett was saying it's tough to bring him down, even though he'd been sacked 9 times coming to this game. Why do you think he has some issues trying to get McCall?
Yeah, he's athletic. I want to look at the film first, Calvin, but he's athletic, and I thought he stepped up a couple times and made some nice plays, but, strong lower body guy, that's real, and I think he's a hell of a competitor. He made the plays. I think that's a big thing for us tonight is we didn't make the critical plays when we needed to. And when you look back on this game, I feel like we kind of let one slip away because there were some good moments, and unfortunately we did it at an inopportune time.
Clarence said DLLS Cowboys. What were they doing to take Pickens away?
Yeah, again, a lot of cover two. A lot of different technique things. They change their coverage up a lot. But again, there was a plan to try to limit our explosives, and I think he had 6 targets and only three catches, and that's not enough. And that starts with me and the offensive staff. We got to find ways to get him the ball better.
You were very aggressive in the first half, certainly the fake field goal, and I think 2 or 3 other fourth down conversions. Third quarter, I think you're up 23-17, and you try to 59-yard field goal rather than try to pin them deep. Do you second guess that? Or
no. I actually said it in there, Clarence. Again, we're spoiled with Brandon Aubrey. You know what I'm saying? What a great player. But no. Felt really good about it. He's such a great player. I had no question in my mind he was going to make it, and I feel good about that decision.
Brian Schottenheimer with a ringing endorsement of everything that we had just talked about for the most part. Third down defense, red zone defense, third down offense, all of those things playing a big factor in the fact that the Cowboys fell 34-26, the final from AT&T Stadium. Your thoughts on what he had to say?
Yeah, it's literally what we just talked about. So, not much to say on a follow-up. They lost on early downs. That's the one thing that he didn't touch base on. Obviously, he talked about the third down lack of efficiency, and he talked about the efficiency on fourth down. But if you're, to Nate's point, if you lose on first and second down and you find yourself at a third down, and if you are low efficiency on third down, then you have to go for it on fourth down. And in the red zone, they weren't good enough either. So all on around, we talked about they had to check the ball down all day long. There weren't many splash plays. Yeah. He just didn't do enough.
It's just the confusion. That's what I liked about it, the confusion. When you're offensive lineman and you guessing, and at the last minute I got to come back and try to get you, I can't stop you, bro. You're too big. Well, one hand can't stop you. And there was a lot of confusion out there tonight. And like I said, there's no continuity within the offensive line. That ain't only your fault, Coach. That's the player's fault, too. See, they got to take some of the blame on this, too.
And he did own up to it. He said a lot of that is on me as a coach, and he felt like they were not prepared the way that they wanted to go. And we'll see how that, in turn, goes next week whenever they turn around and they have to play another game against a possible playoff team in the Los Angeles Chargers. When we come back, let's hear from Jerry Jones. He just spoke to the media behind us a couple moments ago. We'll hear from the owner, president, and GM about his thoughts to the loss against Minnesota.
Guys. Yeah, we're in good shape here. All right. Questions?
What part of tonight's loss bothered you the most?
I think that the fact that we were making field goals rather than getting some touchdowns instead of those possessions, and that ended up biting us, especially when we missed the 2 that we missed. But I think our inability to not keep them out of the end zone, and that was frustrating.
Why do you think your defense is taking a step back?
Well, again, I want to say that we let their quarterback have an outstanding game, and I thought we could do more about that rather than to let him. I think that's pretty telling that when he has the kind of game that he had, that we weren't be able to do really mitigate that.
Jerry, with where you are in the playoff picture now, do you feel like this team is underachieved based on your expectations?
Well, again, yes. We certainly didn't think we'd be here in this kind of shape with 3 games to go and be behind the 8 ball the way we are. It's very disappointing. I'm really, obviously, very disappointed for our fans. I'm disappointed for these players. I didn't expect that. I thought we could come out here and on both sides of the ball make a better accounting of ourselves. Minnesota did the best job out there today on both sides of the ball.
With some thoughts on how the secondary.
A very clear message from Jerry Jones. It was a disappointing night in Arlington. How can the Cowboys bounce back against a formidable foe in the Chargers next week?
To watch more Dallas Cowboys content on your connected TV, download the Cowboys Now app on Amazon Fire, Roku, and Apple TV. Dallas Cowboys Game Night was presented by AT&T. Connecting changes everything.
The Cowboys fall in Week 15. Week 16, their opponent, the Los Angeles Chargers, they were down 13-3 early in this football game against the reigning AFC champion at Kansas City Chiefs. They come back, take a 16-13 lead, and then intercept Patrick Mahomes at the goal line to keep that lead. Later in the fourth quarter, Patrick Mahomes goes down. It's now revealed that he suffered a torn ACL. He will be out for some significant time. You hate to see that from a former MVP and one of the faces of this league. Gardner Minshew would enter the game, and the Kansas City Chiefs would not have enough. Another interception, this time just on the inside of the red zone. The Chargers take over, and they would salt away the clock, and that eliminates the Kansas City Chiefs from playoff contention. They can, of course, eliminate the Cowboys from playoff contention with a win next week, and this is going to be a tough matchup again for the Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the more larger teams in the league. These guys are physical. We know how hardball teams are in terms of physicality, and it's going to be no different. These guys are very talented on defense. If you have an advantage, it's probably your defense against their offense, but after the last few performances we've had, I can't say that with confidence.
Yeah. They're building a hard run game. I'm telling you, if you watch that game, they're going to continue to try to run that ball and keep Herbert in a comfortable situation with the chains.
Yeah, they're 10-4, and for a reason. They've won 3 straight, and they are one of the leaders in the AFC. What do you want to see from Dallas, though, over these next couple of days?
Just execution in all 3 phases. I think everything's been so spotty. It feels like I'm playing a game of darts in the bar, and I don't even go to bars. You know what I mean? It's just nothing. There hasn't been much that you can rest your hat on and say, I know we're going to get this every week. That has not been the case in any third of the game outside of Brandon Aubrey.
Offensive line got to play better. Secondary has to play better.
Both of those things have to be better in order to win, especially against, like you said, a physical performance and a physical team in Los Angeles next week. Cowboys fall in this one, 34-26 the final score. It's a tough one to take here from AT&T Stadium and company. We will be here throughout the week on the Dallas Cowboys Now app, DallasCowboys.com. And be sure to follow all the podcasts, Hanging with the Boys, Talking Cowboys, Monday through Friday. The Cowboys fall to 6-7-1. We'll be back on the air with Cowboys pregame live next Sunday, 11 a.m. Central Time on TXA 21 and DallasCowboys.com. For Isaiah Stanback and Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from AT&T Stadium.